President Obama's pre-inauguration gift to President-elect Donald Trump, a 9-year low for the country's unemployment rate. News yesterday, unemployment is now 4.6%, the lowest since 2007, 178,000 jobs created last month. It is a snapshot of the economy that Trump is inheriting when he takes office. The issue of jobs, of course, a big one for the president-elect this week, celebrating a deal to save roughly 800 jobs at a carrier plant in Indianapolis. Those were jobs slated to move to Mexico next year. In return, Carrier gets $7 million in tax breaks. Senator Bernie Sanders slammed the deal in a Washington Post opinion piece, declaring that Carrier had taken Trump hostage and won. Concerned, of course, about the precedent set here. Also, that he'd signal to every corporation in America that they can threaten to offshore jobs in exchange for business-friendly tax benefits and incentives. And in a letter to Donald Trump this week, Democratic Senator Joe Donnelly of Indiana writes, "While this is welcome news, the number of other Hoosier companies planning to move jobs offshore." He continues, "Until we update our federal policies to better prevent offshoring, I strongly encourage you to make it clear that efforts to ship jobs offshore to chase cheap wages will be addressed head-on by the Trump administration." The senator from Indiana joins me now. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you very much, and I want to offer my thoughts and prayers and the thoughts and prayers of all Hoosiers to our brothers and sisters in Oakland right now. It's a horrible tragedy.
It is a horrible tragedy, and of course we'll keep updating our viewers on that fire throughout the evening. Getting to this deal for your state, the headline is great for these workers, and it is. You can't argue about saving jobs. When you dig into it, roughly 800 jobs total saved that were going to be shipped to Mexico. But when you look at the big picture, Senator, that's just 0.2% of total manufacturing employment in your state. And you know, look, a mile away down the road, there's another plant that's closing, jobs that are going to be lost. Do you believe that the Trump administration is going to jump in and make these deals with every company in your state planning to move to Mexico?
Well, here's what I hope is that they'll work with me and others to have federal policy that will help promote those kind of things. I've been promoting tying federal contracts to making sure that jobs stay in the United States, that if you're offshoring jobs at the same time that you're seeking federal contracts, that there's a penalty in there. You get promoted for good quality, for delivery on time, but if you're offshoring jobs, that there's a penalty. Additionally, that there are tax provisions that eliminate the moving deductions for moving offshores. And
so you don't want the
Trump
Trump administration essentially picking winners and losers. You want this across the board.
Well, I think we can do this for a number of companies because, as you said, just a mile down the road is Rexnord, which is sending 300 jobs to Mexico as well. So I welcome Donald Trump's help in trying to make sure that when these companies look, they say, hey, the best place to be is in the United States with the best workers in the world.
What do you say to, for example, the criticism launched this week by the Wall Street Journal editorial board, who argued, look, overall this move isn't great for America. It's not great for American competitiveness. It's not great for American workers in total, because they say this was a move that Carrier was making for cheaper labor to make them a more competitive company on the global market.
Well, they couldn't have been more competitive. Their profit margins were up. The company was extraordinarily successful. They had the highest quality at this plant. So all of those things were there. They were just chasing $3 an hour wages is what was going on. And so I say to the Wall Street Journal, American workers are entitled to a decent living as well. That's the heart of the American promise, that if you work hard, you do a good job, you make sure that your company's doing well, then in return, a decent salary and taking care of your family is not a bad thing for America.
Let's take a listen to what Congressman Dave Brat of Virginia said about this topic when asked about it by CNN yesterday.
In general, I prefer free markets. I think I'm pretty clear on that. And you can't do that for everybody. So you are picking winners and losers, and the pot's finite. And so you can't go down that road, you know, in the long run.
A Republican congressman warning, look, you can't pick winners and losers. You can't go down this road in the long run. What do you think prevents every CEO from threatening to move jobs to Mexico, demand payment, demand a sweeter deal?
Well, look, Carrier turned down that money months ago. The reason they came to the table now is that they looked and they said, hey, our federal contracts may be endangered, there may be a tariff here, and so it makes economic sense to stay in America right now. And so what we want to do is make sure we have policies in place that favor our workers and our companies.
I understand that, but what
when
prevents,
our workers do well, our companies do well.
I hear that, but what prevents, CEOs of all of these other companies from threatening to do the same thing because they know now that they can get a deal?
Well, look, it wasn't the money first that got Carrier to do this. And if you have strong federal policies in place that make sure that if you go overseas, if you ship your jobs elsewhere, Mr. Trump talked about a tariff to bring those products back in. I'm talking about making sure that if you want federal contracts, you stand up for our workers. And so when you look at the whole panoply of things, when you stand with American workers, it makes the most economic sense. It isn't picking winners and losers. It's making sure we have a field that's fair for our workers as well.
Interesting, Trump supporter and former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin wrote this in a column yesterday, a Young Conservatives column. Let me read you part of it. When government steps in arbitrarily with individual subsidies, favoring one business over another, it sets an inconsistent, unfair, illogical precedent. She went on to say, Republicans oppose this, remember? Instead, we support competition on a level playing field. Remember? Because we know special interest, crony capitalism is one big fail. Obviously, you're from different parties. You may not be on the same page with her on that, but do you agree that this is getting in the way of letting free markets work? That there's a better solution?
I sure do not. I'd like Sarah Palin to come with me, and I'll introduce her to the families who now actually still have a job and are still able to make their mortgage payment and are still able to put a roof over the head of their kids. This is simply determining, instead of having this job at $3 an hour in Mexico, it's here in the United States helping an American family. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think we all think that it is a phenomenal thing that these workers are keeping their jobs, especially right before Christmas when they thought they were losing them. I think the question is just bigger picture, what do we see going forward? I know you have a lot of solutions to that on your website that we talked about. Senator, I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you so much, and again, our prayers are with the families in Oakland.
Senator, thank you so much. I'm Poppy Harlow in New York. I will see you back